So I'm going to try and follow that excellent talk up with something from where I work at Rare. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about creativity. And I think there's a lot of indies and a lot of other developers here from small studios, and they're great inspiration for big studios like us to really think about games and how we create and think about games in a different way. Nope. Okay, so first of all, I'll start off with who I am. So my name is Louise, as I was introduced, and I am currently the Incubation Director at Rare. But that's not where I started. The first job I ever had outside of college was at Rare, and I studied classical animation in Dublin. Interestingly, I was also nominated for a Breakthrough BAFTA last year and got it rescinded because there's like a slight technicality about me not being English. So, give it to the Irish. You're just, holding me back, But I travelled over from Dublin with my family when I was 19 and became the youngest person at Rare Limited at the time. It started off as a 3D animator, having no computer experience at all. All of my work, all of my training is classical, which echoes what Ollie was saying, understanding art. And I do think it's really important to understand the fundamentals and the basic principles of art, especially when you think about things creatively. So I've been there for 15 years, and I've worked at... Does anybody know Rare? Do you know the games we make? You recognise some of these games. These are some of the games that we've... Who here played Conquer? Okay, that's my game. Good. So the first... Sorry? I worked on both of them. The first game I worked on was Conquer's Bad Fur Day. I joined the company, and it was about a year left, and I was an animator on Conquer's Bad Fur Day, and I'm also the voice of Barry. Hi, you've reached like Barry's place? That's me. That's because there's like no girls, and at the time, so when we made games back in '99, we had like a team of 14 people making games, and so we basically did everything. So our studio is purpose built on this, we used to have a very secretive studio. It's less secretive now. We can actually go into all the buildings now in the studio. But on site, we have everything. We have Starbucks. We have our canteen where they feed us. We have this cool sound studio. We do all of our recording. So we could make everything. We could lock ourselves away for a year or 2 years, or in some cases 5 years, and make a game. And that's why I ended up kind of animating and doing some voices as well. So, what I'm going to talk about a little bit is not animation. So the last thing I did was I was art director on KSR. So I went from animator, lead animator, head of animation, art director, and now incubation director. It's like they don't know what to do with me. But it's awesome because I feel like I'm quite a creative person. And I basically look after a team of 8 people now. And we're a new team within Rare. We've always kind of incubated ideas. The idea of incubation is that, so currently, and I'd love to tell you all about it, we're in development of our next big project, which you'll hear about next year, and I promise you're going to get excited. I'm very excited about this idea. What we do in incubation is while we have our I know, teasing, but it is awesome. Anyway, what we do while they're developing this big game that they're going to talk about next year, we kind of whittle away in the background and we start developing what we think is going to be the next project. So we work on project 2 or 3, depending on some of the other things we're doing. So what's cool about that is we basically work as a very small team and we jam on ideas all day, every day. It's like the best job in the world. It's awesome. So what I'm going to show you is the first thing that we do is we set up a room for ideas. So my first job when I was incubation director was to kind of go, we need a space where we want everybody to work. And this is we call it Creative Central. It's kind of hoity-toity. And this is where my team sit. That's my desk over there by the window. And this was actually a picture I took yesterday while the team were jamming on some ideas. The best thing about a space like this, a creative space that you want to have for kind of generating ideas, is you want to have something open plan so that you can talk to each other. My team is made up of multiple disciplines, so I've got designers, artists, 2D artists, 3D artists, engineers, animators. We also have the creative director in there. He's a bit insane, so he sits up. I put him in the corner to keep him out of trouble. And what you also need as well as an open space where you can kind of talk to each other is lots of white walls, because we like to, we brain fart on the walls all the time. And we put pictures up and we put inspiration up. So all the walls around our office are white walls that you can write on. We also have a Lego wall where, have you seen the Lego walls? You could, yeah. You build Lego out of the wall, and it's just for us to have fun because we're silly. You also have loads of these things. Like, it looks like it's, child's schoolroom, but this is great for rapid prototyping. You don't need to, if you've got an idea, like Hearthstone, right? Has everybody here played Hearthstone? Yeah, you could have prototyped that on paper beforehand, right? And proven out your idea quite quickly. And it takes like a couple of hours to build something as a paper prototype, and I'll show you some examples of that later on. So keep stuff like this just to allow people to be creative and kind of whip up quick paper prototypes. And we have cards. We play a lot of board games in our... And tools, again, we're over the past 15 years, we're like, when I started at Conquer, Banjo was being made at the same time, and Perfect Dark was being made, and all of these games had different, and Grab by the Ghoulies, which was after Banjo, all had different engines, and none of us, because we weren't allowed to talk to each other, all of those engines weren't shared. So we were kind of building animation engines and, rendering engines and tools for those specific engines rather than sharing everything. So we kind of united our engines for when we did the first Kinect Sports, or Kinect Sports 2 actually, and we made Rocket Engine. And then we this year, we decided, particularly with Incubation, we don't want to depend on an engine that we have to kind of manage ourselves and have a team of people to look after. Actually, the software is out there, the tools are out there for us to use. So we use both Unity and Unreal. We've actually kicked off some Jam stuff that we're doing this week, and we're using Unity. I also use Maya. I started using Maya, and then I learned 3D Max, and then I went back to Maya as an animator. But and then Creative Cloud. So if you just want all your Adobe tools, just get Creative Cloud, because it just keeps it updated. You get all the latest versions of it, and it's kind of awesome. And that way you get, Photoshop, but you also get Premiere and After Effects, which are great tools as well for pitching videos. So a big part of what we do as designers or creatives or people coming up with ideas is thinking about how we pitch our game ideas. And I have even though I've done a PowerPoint presentation, I am sick of people pitching me game ideas in PowerPoint. I want to see a video, I want to see a paper prototype, I want to play it, I want to see something inspiring and creative, and I try and encourage as many people as possible out there when they're talking about their games to get up and do it in a different way, like make a card game and make people play it, and that's a great way to pitch your idea. So, a little bit about our process. What we do is, it's not just the team of people on Incubation that come up with ideas. We open it up to the whole studio, and in fact, anybody in Microsoft, because we're part of the Microsoft organization, can fill in one of these Inspire cards. So, when Phil Spencer visits, I'll hand him one of these and go, right, if you've got an idea for us, then fill it out. And I'm pretty sure I know what he'd say. But what we do is, we've got a section of our whiteboard dedicated to these cards, and we can get 100, 150 ideas on the wall. And you just write in, what's the idea? I really love Banjo-Kazooie. Why is it interesting? Because it's Banjo-Kazooie, right? And then from the brain of Greg Mails, who's the original designer, and the date that it goes on the wall. The reason we put the person on there as well as the date is so that we can talk to the person with the idea and pick their brain apart and why they like the idea and kind of involve them in the process, whether they're on the team or not. The date that we put on there is because we prioritize everything. So we work with our studio lead, which is Craig, to kind of prioritize what we think we want to make, what the studio needs, and what the console needs are as well, so where we see a gap in the market. Once we kind of like an idea, we take it through. So we've got our pillars in Incubation are Inspire, Nurture, Make. So Inspire is the first bit where you've got that kind of, moment, that light bulb moment. The second stage is when we want to nurture that idea and turn it into something real. So at this stage, we start paper prototyping, or we do mini prototypes in Unity, or we do presentations, we do a lot of research. So this is the exploration phase. So we could spend a couple of sprints. Our sprints are 2 weeks, and I call them sprints because that's what most people in our studio call them, but it's just 2 weeks worth of work, and we throw it all in, and then we kind of look at it and go, oh, let's change it, or I don't like this, or I want to do this. And we just keep reviewing it. And this could go on for 2 weeks, or it could go on for 3 months, or it could go on for a year. And basically at this stage we go from having 100 ideas down to 3 ideas, which ultimately we want to end up with 1 idea. And that's where we go into the make phase. And the make phase is where we start talking about the next stage. And this is where we start pitching it to Microsoft and leadership, so where we start sharing it with Phil Spencer, Phil Harrison, who's head of EMEA Studios. And we build a proper prototype. Everything that we do at this stage will eventually be ditched if the game idea gets moved through to proper pre-production, because they may want to use Unreal. They may take elements of what we've built, but ultimately for us, the biggest thing with incubation is you've got to try, fail, pick up the pieces, try again. You've got to learn from your mistakes. So, we could prototype 10 things, 9 of them just don't work out, but one of them could be the champion idea, and that's the point of incubation, is to try lots and lots of different things, see what works, and ultimately find the fun. The key of incubation is finding, because we don't want to make shit games, basically. And try hard not to. Oh, that didn't work. Well, basically, it's a one sheet. Underneath, it was supposed to be animated, so you could see the blank one sheet beforehand. So what we do is when we get to a certain stage where we think we have an idea, so we'll start with a rough, I want to make, a sports game, and then we go to fleshing out what the idea is. So we do a one sheet, and so the one sheet will have your title, and you put some images on here, so at a glance you kind of get an idea of what it is. So this is not a game we're making, this is an archived game, but this is an idea that was sent through for somebody in the team. And then you put your kind of one-line tagline explanation of what it is. Why should adults have all the fun? This is a high-quality, exciting, swashbuckling action-adventure that kids can play too. And then over here, you talk about some of the mechanics. So you talk about what the player will be doing, what they will be feeling, who will they be playing against. This is the twist. So what makes this game unique and different and innovative? Because we're always looking for innovative things at Rare. And then who's the audience? Do we make it for Xbox One? Do we make it for PC? Do we make it for tablet? Is it for moms, dads, you guys, kids? Who knows? And that's basically where we get to with an idea. Woo. One of the other things that we do, and this is a great tip for groups of people working together, even if you're working on your own, you should try and do this, brainstorming. So we have a list of rules. These are our rules that we put on the wall for brainstorming, which sounds like shit that you don't want to have rules when you brainstorm. So brainstorming is just when a group of people get together and you have to have a very solid idea of what you're brainstorming. So we try and ask a question. So again, mimicking what Ollie said, it's all about asking the right question. So you have to ask a lot of questions to find the right question. So it could be, let me think, try to think of something that doesn't give away anything that we're doing. So it could be we did some brainstorming recently on some platforming games. So it's what is, a really cool, key, interesting mechanic for a platforming game? And so we'd all get together and we'd have a whiteboard with our question on it, and we'd all have Post-it notes and Sharpie pens. And when you go into the room, you basically go in, there's no, we'll have people from all walks of life in there, everybody's the same. So if the studio head's in there with a brand new graduate, they have equal say. They have equal weight in everything that we do. Wild ideas are encouraged, so we want to hear really crazy, zany ideas. They're usually the best. And then they kind of allow us to build on those ideas as well. So when you get crazy out there ideas, you kind of got to build and combine until you come up with the idea. What's great about brainstorming sessions is you get a lot of ideas. So a really great thing is fast creative thinking, is trying to just whip out loads and loads and loads and loads of ideas really quickly. Every person, every idea has equal worth, and one idea at a time. I had to put that in there because we have a very loud bunch of people and they kept talking over each other, and I'm like, okay, one idea at a time. Which is good because I want to encourage, because when you've got different personalities, you've got some people who are much more extroverted than some other people, and we want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to say their piece and be heard and listened to as well, because everybody's idea has worth. There's no such thing as a bad idea. There are some negatives. Not everybody loves brainstorming, and they can go really badly. You can have a really, really bad brainstorming session if you don't have a well thought out plan or question to ask beforehand, and you'll just end up with loads of random ideas that don't mean anything. So you really have to get that. But it just takes practice to kind of get brainstorming right. Some tips on how to stay creative. So make notes. Like, keep a pen and paper with you all the time. I'm sure everybody does that, right? Yeah, no, maybe. But I would suggest that you do, right? Keep a pen and paper with you all the time. Play games. Like, this is like when I go to schools and I talk about, things I think you should do. I'm like, yeah, play games, watch cartoons, watch films, read books, do all the stuff that you're kind of told not to do, because they're actually the things that inspire us. And like, there's so many great, smart, and I'm not even a huge console game player. I play indie games, I play mobile games a lot. I'm currently working my way through Thomas is Alone, which is like a great example of a very simple game mechanic, but actually it's the story and the way they tell the story that really I find appealing. And that's just my own personal preference. I read a lot. So I actually don't know how I have time to do a lot of this, but I do. And I encourage people on my team to play games during the day. So like when we're working on something, we'll we have a Steam account and we'll just buy a whole heap of games that are relevant to whatever genre we're looking at, and we'll just play them together. Board games. I don't know, do you guys play board games? Yeah, like seriously, board games are like, this is a new thing for me. In the past year, I've just played so many board games. Werewolves is something that we've been playing, like it's so much fun. Kill Dr. Lucky, a whole heap of really interesting board games. But go play them, because actually, from a game mechanics perspective, they're very, very smart. And if you can build a board game, you can build a digital game as well. Talk to people and collaborate. It's really important that you share your ideas and you get them out there and you bounce off other people. Like, you could have the best idea in the world, or you could have an average idea which will be made better by sharing it with other people. It's really important for creative people a lot of creative people, like, they go, I have my idea, I'm not going to tell anybody. And it's like, okay, that's fine, but you have to share your idea and make it better and better and better, because it really hones it. Particularly when you're thinking about who's going to play it. It's not just for you, right? It's for other people around you. So ask people that you think you're aiming your game at. Don't be afraid to take risks. So a lot of people, like, they'll have some, like, I'm quite weird, I think. I watch a lot of horror movies, and I spend a long time animating, squirrels on fire, right? So I get a bit, wacky sometimes. And for years, I used to, have loads of really fun and interesting ideas, but was afraid to say them, because I'd be like, people are going to think I'm insane, I'm going to lose my job. And then I started talking about them when I became Incubation Director. So I was like, oh, okay, so this is okay. So actually, it's a really positive thing to talk about your art. Whatever it is, share it. And if anybody judges you, then they are not as creative as you are. They're not understanding of what nobody should judge other people's ideas. So I hope everybody here, when they hear an idea, they can kind of talk about it in a positive way, no matter what it is, because it's come from somewhere within somebody. The sixth thing are mind maps. These are really interesting. I don't know if you guys have seen these. So mind maps are a great way of kind of when you get creative clutter in your brain and there's just like a zillion things and you can't quite get focused on one thing. And this happens to a lot of creative people. A mind map is a really, really great way of just kind of putting it down on paper and working out all the different paths and kind of sorting out your ideas. So what I'll do, this is Tony Buzan. And not a lot, I don't know if people know about mind maps, but I thought I'd show this little video. Yeah.
How to improve your creative thinking.
Which I thought was good. It's only 3 minutes, don't worry.
Tony Buzan is a leading expert on the brain and learning, and inventor of the revolutionary mind mapping technique. Through his work in media, Tony aims to educate the world in how to use the brain more effectively. Tony believes that everyone has the potential to be creative. And in this film, he talks about how you can find and develop your inner creativity. Step 1. Everyone is creative.
It's true.
First, I want to dispel the notion that anyone, anywhere, could be not creative. We have a million brain cells, and they all integrate. Now, anybody with a piece of equipment like that who says, I'm not creative, is obviously making a mistake. What's happened is that they haven't been taught how to use that phenomenal piece of equipment.
Step 2. The left and right brain.
As we know, the left deals with words and numbers and lists and logic and analysis, and the right brain deals with rhythm and colour and shape and form and imagination and daydreaming. It has been thought that creativity was right brain, and because we've misanalyzed that, creativity has therefore been majorly damaged, but it needs to use both sides and get the order and the number and the image and the colour and the rhythm and the imagination and the daydreaming all working together. That is creativity.
Okay.
Step 3. Speed of thought.
Speed of thinking is called fluency. How fast, how rapidly can you generate ideas? And that you can develop by just playing at it. You can practice thinking faster. You can practice, getting those little puzzles and working them out faster. And faster speed and that kind of productivity is one of the hallmarks of creative genius.
Step 4. Originality of thought.
If someone says, what could you use a coat hanger for? And you answer, for hanging a coat. That will not get you high points in creativity. If you said you could use it to fuel a rocket ship to the moon by taking the constituent molecules of that particular coat hanger and converting it into some kind of fuel, that's way out. That's what is known as thinking out of the box.
Step 5. Flexibility of thought.
Most people tend to focus on one way. This is the way I think. This is the way I see that. When it should be, how many ways can I see this from? How many perspectives can I look at it from? And the great creative thinkers play with looking at different perspectives.
Step 6. Imagination and association.
All great creative thinkers are using their imagination. What they are doing in addition to that is they're making links between things, so they are associating. So it's imagination and association, the two big key words for creativity. And what you have to do when you are being creative is to find those associations and connections between things that are going to create something new.
So what I like about showing that video is like, he's obviously a really smart guy, so when he says it, people tend to believe him rather than believing me. So that's like the science behind creativity. I'm going to have to rush this up, so I won't get to show my next awesome video. So what is creativity? And creativity is when you find a question, ask it, and you've got to solve that problem that you've presented with yourself. And I don't mean solving a problem like in, dear Claire, I've had a bad day in work today, whatever. So problem solving, everybody is faced with that every day. Everything that we do every day, from like, should I get out of bed now or wait an extra 5 minutes? It starts as soon as we wake up. It probably, kicks off in the middle of the night. So it's something we do naturally every day. You just have to remember that it's, from a creative perspective, when you're thinking about a game idea, present yourself with that question. It's just another problem you have to solve and figure out. And everyone has capacity to be creative. I work with amazing engineers, and they speak with big words and things that sometimes I don't understand, and yet they're some of the most amazing people I've ever met and had the pleasure of working with. I was going to show you a video because I wanted to kind of show you an example of a thing that I think is super creative, and it's an example, and it's like proof that anything can be creative. And I'll really quickly click in it and I'll play it. So this is the honey badger. You guys know the honey badger? He didn't give a shit, right? So the honey badger, this particular... So this particular animal, is able to... So this guy owns a honey badger in Australia, and they kind of kept him in a pen, and he kept escaping. So every day this honey badger was faced with the problem of, how do I escape today? And no matter what this guy did, this honey badger was able to utilize the tools around him and escape. So when they put him in this pen, he kind of used the rake to lean it against the wall and climb out. This is a honey badger. This isn't even a human being, and he's just being super creative. Then they gave him a mate to keep him entertained. So he used her to climb on top of, to get up to a latch and a gate, unlatch the gate, and escape. So they worked together to escape. And then they did something else, and they sorted out the gate, and then he made mud balls and built a pile of mud balls and used them to climb out. You cannot keep this thing in. And every day he's asked himself the same problem. This is just weird. Right? But look at it, even the fact that it can get into the fridge, it's like, yeah. And they can't do it because they're quite aggressive. So never approach a honey badger, but also know that it's a really good problem solver. So I kind of wanted to show that. What I'll really do is talk quickly about what we do as studios. I know we're about to go, but I want to talk about jams, and I don't know if any of you guys, so there's lots of things that you can do. I mean, we do it within the studios, but there's a lot of public places that you can go do jams in. And a game jam is just where you kind of get resources, or you get a group of people together and you just make whatever you want. We do it as a studio once a year. We do it at Linehead, we do it at Soho, we do it at Lift. Studios do it as a whole. This is some pictures from our creative days where you can see some paper prototyping. We do put a time challenge on it. So our one this year was 3 days, but that you can do 3 to 5 days. I've also been to one that they did it in 1 day, which is so impressive. It can be anyone, any discipline, any size team. And you can make anything, and the point of the jams are to have loads and loads of fun. There's loads of benefits. They're really inspirational. This was, I think it was called Drinks Please over here. So there's a great example of a paper prototype. Instead of Papers Please, they did Drinks Please, and they had us all acting out the roles of us coming along and trying to get cocktails and stuff like that. It was actually really good fun. You learn the value of rapid prototyping. Rapid prototyping, like I say, can be card games, can be paper prototypes, can be, physically playing a game or a technical version of the game. We also discovered that constraints can help the process. So it's actually, when you're just told, go make a game, that's really hard. But if you have something to focus on, so if you give like a top line word or something like, I don't know, jam, right? Then everybody has to make a game around jam, and it kind of helps focus the process. You get great cross-discipline partnerships. It's really good for morale because we all really enjoy it, especially when we've made sports games for like 3 years. So we're like, yeah, let's make something completely different. And it gives us a real insight into this studio talent and helps us find the awesome. Nearly there. Tips and tricks, work out your creative problems aloud. Don't try and work them out in your head. Say them. I kind of talk to myself in the car. I was doing it this morning and I look like an aegis. Don't force it. I think it's really important, not to, sit at your desk and go, okay, have to have an idea, have to have an idea, have to have an idea. That's the worst thing you could do. Get up and walk away, go home. Usually your idea is going to come to you when you're on the toilet, when you're in the shower, when you're asleep in bed. That's why you keep your pen and paper with you. That's how ideas happen, when you're not expecting them to. And here's some books to read. Ta-da! Creative books, and also Creativity Inc. is really interesting. Understanding comics is great for people who don't, as designers, we kind of have to share our ideas in a visual way. If you're a technical person or an engineer, then reading a book like this helps you visualize things or think like an artist as well. And then there's some amazing TED Talks on creativity. Just go, TED actually have just a section of creative talks. Go look at them and be inspired. And finally, the games industry, and I'm sure all of you here want to work in games eventually, it's a really hard job. It's fun, but it's a really hard job, and I don't want anybody to go into games lightly and thinking that they can take the piss and just work 9 to 5, and it's playing games all day, every day. It's a really hard job. It's so satisfying and fulfilling, else I wouldn't be doing it as long as I have been. So my first tip is be patient. Give yourself time, don't rush into things. I think it's important to be patient with your ideas. Work hard. Don't expect that it's going to be an easy ride. You will have to work hard, but the reward is worth it. Research and reference, like Ollie was saying, there's so many great ideas out there. Look at play games, read the books, and then your inspiration will come from those other things. And then use your imagination, and don't be afraid of the ideas that you have and the thoughts that you have. It's okay. Creative people have the crazy ideas. It's okay to share them. And that is it. And we're hiring. Ta-da! Read those, see if you fit those, and email this guy. Right.
So sorry, Sasha.
That's okay.